Welcome back in, everyone, to the Lucky Bets podcast. Dylan Corbet back in here with us today. Dylan, I'm just going to, before we get into the show, I'm just going to say you whooped my ass last week. Whether it came to prop bets, DFS, it was all bad for me. But let's hop into lines. Let's get right into it, right into the meat of it. There's five lines that I saw last night putting this together. I'd be interested in taking. And I even looked at it and I said, if I put $25 down on this for a parlay, how much would I make out of it? $5,000 I would make out of this parlay if I put them all together.
Okay. I like it.
Haven't decided if I'm going to do it or not, but we're going to take the Giants plus 300 against Green Bay. Detroit plus 143 against New England, Seattle plus 192 against New Orleans, the Jets plus 190 or plus 150 versus Miami, and Dallas plus 196 against the Rams.
So the 5 money line underdog parlay. I like it.
Yes.
What are some thinking there? I will say I do have the Giants marked on here. There are just a couple of spots that I think are intriguing. Like, I think that Bears number is a bit too large. Chicago always comes and plays Minnesota tough, even at their place. I know, I don't have Sunday ticket because I don't have cable, so I am stuck either watching the Vikings or some crap game every week. So I've watched way too much Chicago Bears already this year for what it's worth, but. Yeah, the Giants are super intriguing there because I think the Packers certainly, I was on New England spread last week and they nearly outright won with Brian Hoyer and then Zappy, right?
Yeah.
Something about this Packers team, man, they're vulnerable.
Yeah, they're winning games. So the MO of the Packers has just been win the game, never looks pretty, but they get the win. The Giants are looking pretty all right this year. 3-1. Saquon is obviously a huge part of that team because he's been either hurt or not playing well the past few years. They haven't done well. He's at full strength and they're 3-1. So,
and he's leading the NFL in rushing yards right now.
Yeah. So he just looks real good. And, Packers, they play a little lackluster. It's going to be in London. So
that's right.
I think it's a sneaky one and the biggest line I'm wanting to bet on because I think the Giants can be a little sneaky this week and maybe sneak one out, go 4-1. And fun fact, last time they had this good of a start, they went 4-0. 2011, they won the Super Bowl. So
hey,
not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but hey, it's the best start since then. So
maybe
Detroit,
Eli will come. He'll come out of the booth and take him to the promised land, like he did those two.
Maybe they'll do a special Manning cast for the Super Bowl if the Giants.
Yeah, right. Eli's playing. You saw him. He went undercover and tried out with Penn State. I said, it looks like he still got it, I guess.
Oh yeah. The Jets against Miami. Miami with Teddy Two Shoes.
Yeah.
No, they're not a good defense either. We've seen just them get routed, ball moved on them so much by every team so far. Zach Wilson didn't look terrible last week. No. Thank goodness. So let's go with it. Dallas. I don't know how Dallas can be the underdog against LA when LA can't score offensive touchdowns. That just doesn't make sense to me. Cooper Rush, sure, he's the backup, but he hasn't lost as the starter. For Dallas, so why not?
Quarterback controversy. No, Dallas is interesting. I'm streaming their defense a lot in fantasy this week, hoping the sacks pile up like they did for the Niners we saw. I will say, so how about that stat? You like that TJ Watt in his career has now not played in 7 games since he was drafted by the Steelers, and they're 0-7. They were winning that entire game, and the Jets, of course, come back. That was a plus money dog winner last week. You're looking to do that again. Let's go to Thursday night because you and I are rivals tonight. All right, what's your read on the Broncos? And then or just the game overall, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Broncos are fucked, man. We've got now the 2 running backs in our backfield are Melvin Gordon, who's fumbled every single week. And fun stat, Go to last year. He fumbled in the last game he played too. So 5 straight games he's fumbled the damn football. Mike Boone looked like he didn't know what the hell he was doing out there. He'd run routes completely incorrect. I mean, he'd be in a spot and he's supposed to be somewhere else. So, and then we bring in, what was it? Latavius Murray.
Latavius, yep. Old Latavius still kicking and running.
You know, he might end up being the lead back towards the end of the year because who the fuck? And we got to have the run game to set up the pass game. We don't have a run game now. It's just it's a whole mess. But no Jonathan Taylor for the Colts tonight.
Yep.
I still like the Broncos.
This is the running back batch we've got tonight is just disgusting. I think Philip Lindsay might be getting carries for the Colts, you know,
against his old team. Why not?
How about that? We're deep into the practice squad bin already for running backs. I was targeting Mike Boone on the waiver wire, and all of a sudden, Latavius Murray's been like, great. Okay, of course he's going to steal that. That's a veteran.
Yeah, I picked him up because I just have Damian Harris now, so I need someone. I've got DeAndre Swift, so I'll be okay with that once he comes back. But shit.
My only thought here is what has happened as we'll get into best and worst teams against the number here. What has happened every single time with the Colts when they are expected to win and comfortably win, that they have been destroyed. Like, it's not been close. Jacksonville, Tennessee, Houston, they ended up tying, but that was, they had no shot covering that. When they have been expected to get crushed or just no chance at winning, what have they done? They beat the Chiefs. I don't think anyone's given them much credit tonight. No Taylor. The run game's been terrible even with him. Matt Ryan, he looks terrible out there, but if you just looked at his box score numbers, he's like 4th in the league in passing yards. Actually had an okay game last week, if you could say that. Why not? I've got the Colts winning outright here. I know it's very tough going into Denver, winning prime time. Maybe this is a chance for Matt Ryan to showcase, hey, this isn't a total dud flop of me coming here prime time. No one's really even watched the Colts. They've just seen the highlights of getting blown out. Maybe we get to see something. But where's Pittman Jr.? Now all of a sudden he's going to be shadowed. Paris Campbell. Like, it's turning into last year's Falcons where all of a sudden Ridley's gone and we got nobody.
Right.
How about Alec Pierce, though? Is he he's starting to get on the fantasy relevance meter because he's a rookie I liked out of Cincinnati. They drafted Jelani Woods. You don't know where he's going to show up or he's not going to show up. Matt Ryan's just looking for anyone to throw touchdowns to. That's why Mo Alley Cox is popping off. I've got Colts winner tonight, even though I'm obviously biased.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm projecting it to just be a shithole of a game. Maybe this will be the game both offenses just look real good. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. The only thing I can hopefully expect is that the Broncos defense is pretty good. So
yeah,
that's all I can bank on. But I guess we'll see. I'm not too excited about it. Glad that I'll be at work tonight, so I only have to half watch the game.
I'm kind of getting up for it. I'm having a buddy over. I might throw it on. I might throw a Matt Ryan jersey on, get it going. For what it's worth, this total's disgusting. It's at 42. Almost 90% of the money is on the under. You know what that means? That I love the over. The over. So maybe we do get kind of like a 24-27 game. I think that would be a nice surprise for football fans.
Yeah, why not? All right. Any other lines you're looking at, or we good to move on?
Let's move on. And if we are going to best team against the number, do you have a guess for who it might be? There is one team who is perfect against the spread through week 4.
Is it Detroit?
Detroit checks in at 3-1. There are a handful of teams at 3-1.
All right. Yeah, that would be my guess. I'm not too sure. Maybe Seattle.
Seattle checks in at they are down. They're at 2-2. My old squad, the Atlanta Falcons, a perfect 4-0 against the number. Say it ain't so. So they have been perfect against the number. Part of that too. And here's what I love about spreads in college football and the NFL is that you only get in the NFL, you get 17 games to kind of assess your season, right? And it's a great indicator of how your season is doing. If you're say your record isn't great, but you're great against the number, like you're a team that was better than expected this season, according to Vegas, and vice versa. Like, who would you say right now? Every team is at least covered once, but there's a ton of teams that are 1-3. Like, what are some teams that flash in your eye as maybe underperforming this year? If you were to guess, maybe a handful of teams that have not performed. I'll give you a quick one. Denver's in there at 1-3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Colts are in there at 1-3 too.
The Rams probably. Yeah, I would have to
Rams.
guess. Yeah.
Rams have been terrible, and they've been coming off as the Super Bowl champs. Like, they're getting all these inflated numbers, and it hasn't been close
Right.
in these 1-3 against the numbers.
Yeah, probably the Bengals as well, I would have to guess.
Cincinnati's picking up a little bit late. I think they're even at 2-2,
Gotcha.
unless my eyes aren't deceiving me here. Minnesota 1-3. That's been another underperforming. Jacksonville's 2-2 against the number, but when they've covered, it's been no sweat. Like, you placed your money and you've walked to the teller before the end of the fourth quarter. Buffalo's actually been pretty good. Philadelphia also has been strong this year, 3-1.
Heck yeah. It's always nice to take a look at those kind of numbers when placing some of these bets, because it's just like, we'll get into it right now, just some good betting advice, good things to know when you're going to go put money down on some games. What's some other advice you have besides just looking at who's covering throughout the year?
I think the biggest thing I do is, since I've been gambling pretty seriously, and like sports, I think sports is we're almost completely into sports and gambling being intertwined, where I'm looking at every game and just crunching these numbers. Like, it's not just fantasy, it's not just the NFL as a sports fan, but it's also like, all right, where's some profitability in here with these teams? And we're kind of talking about that. I love fading the public. So it's like, hey, everyone, seriously. And I'm able to see these percentages on the Action Network. Like, I do think if you are serious about sports gambling, that it's like a couple bucks a month to just kind of see this data. The Action Network's a great way to track your bets. I think tracking your bets is key. People don't want to be like, I don't want to put pen to paper, I know I'm doing all right. Well, this way you can be like, wait a second, I've lost 3 straight weeks in a row betting on the Rams. Or it's like, hey, I've like all of a sudden I can't win when I'm betting on road underdogs. Like, I like looking at trends and being able to kind of see, like, okay, where are some profitability in between the numbers betting. But yeah, I would say key in on where the public's betting. I like fading. Kind of my key thing is every single day I'll just hop in, look at some lines and look at data. All right, where is 90% of the bets or more? Usually my cutoff is 80% of bets are on what? Let's say 80%. They're close, but 80% are on the Broncos tonight. I'm on the Colts. Like, it's kind of like, it's not a perfect system, but you're going to, more times than not, be, if you pick your spots, in that 53 to 56 percentile in winning and fading the public. You got to be disciplined. I don't like really changing unit size, but yeah, it's all about kind of just, getting that sample size out there, finding what you like. And definitely my key is looking at percentages. And when everyone thinks something's going to happen, more times than not, I like to be the guy that's on the other side of things when it doesn't happen. And there's sometimes where there's going to be a no sweat win, like Oklahoma against Nebraska. I go back to a couple weeks ago. Oh man, yeah, Oklahoma's going to blow them out. Not so fast. They blow them out. Okay, I'll get laughed at there. Next week, everyone's on Oklahoma. I'm on Kansas State. Kansas State cashes a plus 300 money line winner. And I still stick with I'm like, oh man, Nebraska screwed me. Am I going to switch on my philosophy? No, stay diligent. Kansas State. That's my biggest advice, is fading the public.
Nice. So you're going to go out and place bets this week or in the future. Just keep those things in mind, because, this guy knows what he's talking about. And that's why we got him on the show.
Hey.
All right, let's hop into DFS. We are currently tied at 2-2. As I mentioned, you spanked me last week, 131 to 82. You beat me by nearly 50 points, but you had Josh Allen go off for over 30. Saquon had a good 18-point game. Brandon Cooks
Solid.
finally cashed in with a touchdown, got 18.7. And how about TJ Hawkinson leading all fantasy scores, 39.9 fantasy points. I don't see that happening again if Amon-Ra St. Brown is in, but Jared Goff needed somebody to throw the ball to. And I kind of called my shot with that being a good fantasy game. You had the top two quarterbacks being Jared Goff and Geno Smith. So if you had anybody in that game, you kind of cashed in a little bit.
Yeah, I streamed Geno. It was great. I was looking at that game too because I'm like Geno or Goff, and I'm like, wait, Goff's kind of struggling. And garbage time, he goes for over 40. It was crazy. So yeah, you won with either of those guys. Excuse me. I mean, Josh Reynolds in garbage time all of a sudden racking up a nice game too. Yeah, it was interesting. I ended up winning like my fantasy group of like 12 people. So yeah, it was just a good week for my lineup, and we'll see if we can keep it going. You
Yeah,
started off. I got to let my dogs out.
gotcha. And I finally cashed in with Geno Smith, getting my second fantasy win. So that was nice as well. At the quarterback position, we're going with Zach Wilson going against Miami. Miami is 31st against quarterbacks. Zach had an 18-point game last week. He's projected 16.6, going for 5,300. So we'll take Zach Wilson going up against Miami, who I think defense is definitely struggling there. And they've got Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. And I already said I'm going to pick them going against Miami. So let's cash in on Zach Wilson this week.
I like it. Are we finally ready to trust Wilson, Rodgers, and my guy Brady now? Like I've been listening to a fantasy podcast which calls them like the Hall of Fame circle, which is all of a sudden you were benching them, and now all of a sudden you're kind of like, all right. I got a lot of questionable guys on here, so hopefully this is kind of a speculative lineup, but I've got it here. We'll lock it in for the podcast. I'm going Brady against Atlanta. You know, I hope it's not they run if they're up big, but in case it is, I mean, look, Falcons have been an impressive team. They're 4-0 against the numbers, so maybe Tampa Bay is in a throwing match. So I'm kind of handcuffing myself here. I've got Brady and Fournette. It's my 1-2 punch there. So Brady's only 6,000. Fournette 69. And I'm ready to go on the Breece Hall hype train. He's my other running back here. 5,400, questionable. I think he's going to play, and if he does, he's all of a sudden the lion's share in that backfield. They're ready to really give it to him. So that's my quarterback and 2 running backs there.
Yeah, I don't mind Breece Hall. I've been trying to my running back room is in shambles now. I had Javonte Williams in 2 leagues, so really looking for a lot. I threw out a trade for Breece Hall. We'll see how that goes. But my running backs, I'm going to stick with the hot hand of Jamal Williams. Without DeAndre Swift in that backfield, even with DeAndre Swift in that backfield, he's been great. I think the stat that I really like is 3 out of the 4 weeks he's played so far this season, he's got 2 touchdowns. Why the hell not throw that into your fantasy lineup, especially if he's the only back in that backfield? They're going against New England, who is 4th against fantasy running backs, but it's New England and it's Jamal Williams. So he's going to get his touches. He's projected 16. He's 6,500. We'll go ahead and take him. And then, we're going to stay in that same game. I'm taking Damian Harris against Detroit, who's actually 31st against running backs. He's projected 13.2. He's 5,600, but he's another guy who I think he scored 3 of the 4 weeks. So give me the chance at those touchdowns. I know Ramondre Stevenson's in that backfield. He's going to take some of that, but it's normally Damian Harris getting into the end zone. So that's the running backs I will take on that.
I will say for that too is like I think there's a stat something like the last 24 games for the Detroit Lions. So it's basically been since the Dan Campbell era. Like a running back has scored in 16 of those, and it's been monster games. So should be monstrous there for you.
And with Damian Harris, he's scored, I think, going back to last season in 18 of his last 20 games. So
I love it.
Let's get touchdowns in here.
I've got the most expensive receiver, Cooper Kupp. Look what happened this past week. I know it was in prime time, so not much DFS value, but it was incredible. He set a new record for targets. I mean, they were just peppering him with the ball. I lost to the it's my word. I have 1-1-3 team, maybe 2-1-3 teams, and it's the league I care about the most. And I have Kupp just go off. I score 130. Doesn't matter because my opponent put up 180. I couldn't even
Jesus.
tell you his lineup. Everyone popped for 25. It was, he had
Right.
Hawkinson, he had everyone. All right, I've got Cup. I think Olavi is the best receiver in that Saints locker room. So I'm going to play him relatively cheap there, 5,700. Then Jalen Waddle, questionable. Hopefully he's fine. How's he going to do with Teddy? Well, he's a little bit more of the short yardage guy where Tyreek's going deep. So maybe a couple of targets there. And maybe I just utilize some receptions to get him touchdown would be great. Get him in that 12 to 20 range.
Right. Yeah. I don't mind Jalen Waddle actually as the top receiver for Miami if Teddy B is the quarterback. Teddy
Mm-hmm.
B obviously is that short yardage guy. The quick passes get the ball out of Teddy's hands quick. So definitely a good play there. I'm shadowing you here with Chris Olave. He's just a target hog. Hopefully Jameis Winston's back because he's a lot more targeted with Jameis Winston. He still had a good game last week, 16 or 17 points with Andy Dalton, but it looks a lot better if it is Jameis Winston.
Right.
We're going to take Stephon Diggs going against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's 28th against the wide receiver position. He's projected 18.5. He's 8,400, but when there's a guy as obvious a number one as Stephon Diggs, got to believe there's going to be a touchdown. Pittsburgh, again, if TJ Watt isn't in, I don't know how much longer he's going to be out, but apparently Pittsburgh can't stop any offense without TJ Watt. So go ahead and give me Stephon Diggs. And let's take CeeDee Lamb going against the Rams. Rams are 31st against the wide receiver position. Lamb is projected 17.8. He's 7,000. And how about this? Back-to-back 20-point weeks. Give me another one. Helps me in normal fantasy. It'll help me here in DFS. So let's get another 20-point game out of CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, see, he's been fine with Rush. I was really worried too. Who do you like more, just as a hypothetical? Like, who do you trust more going forward, CD or Brandon Cooks?
CD. I mean, he's performed. Brandon Cooks just finally got in the end zone last week and still didn't score as much as CeeDee Lamb did. So Brandon Cooks is an annoying guy. I think I had him on every single team. I've traded him away in 2 leagues. Trying to trade him away in a third. So, hopefully he continues to do all right because I think he's a piece I won't be able to move in the league that I still have him.
And you still got to start him, right? You still throw him out there.
Yeah, you can't not start a guy who gets a decent amount of targets, but he's just not doing anything with them yet.
All right, I'm rolling with the double tight end move here to save some money in my tight end and flex spot. Schultz. Come on, let's get in the end zone at the Rams. Rams are really good against tight ends. I don't love that, but I'll throw them in there. David Njoku finally getting a lot of targets. Maybe if he scored, he'd be a little bit more of an automatic plug-in. But again, I'm saving some money here since I got Cup. So I'm going to go with Schultz and Njoku.
Gotcha. Tight end position. I was flip-flopping between the 2 tight ends in this game. Landed on Dallas Goedert going up against Arizona. Arizona's 32nd against the tight end position. He's projected 10.1, only 4,700. I really wanted to go Zach Ertz just because his bottom line has been 10 every game. Yep. And I was like, do I take that consistent line or do I take the chance of Dallas Goedert scoring more than 10 going up against a defense that normally isn't very good against tight ends? So I'll take Dallas Goedert. And here we're going to get a little risky. It's going up against Buffalo, who is risky 5th against the wide receiver position. But with Kenny Pickett coming in, got quite a few targets. George Pickens.
Yep.
Give me that rookie receiver. He's already proven he's a hell of an athlete. And I believe himself and Pat Freiermuth were both like over 50% of the target share last week with Pickett. So it's not a great matchup, but I'm just hoping for a decent amount of targets for George Pickens. Maybe he scores. He's only projected 9.7, pretty cheap at 4,300, but I'm going to take the chance there. I think he could have a pretty decent game.
I love the boom potential there, certainly. All right, we've been talking about him too. I mean, this Cowboys defense, look what the Rams just did against the 49ers defense. What was it? They like someone threw out over sacks in that game as one of their plays. That was the lock of the century. The Rams didn't even have a sack on their defense, and that thing still cashed going away because the Niners were just slamming Stafford into the turf. I think Parsons is going to do the same here. Cowboys defense, look, they're helping Cooper Rush stay undefeated. They're making it real easy on him. Rams, we talked about to start this podcast, is they've been on a Super Bowl hangover. What if that continues? And maybe Dallas's defense is the one to win it for them. That'd be big. But I think this is going to be really public. And maybe people stay away from the Cowboys defense because there's that potential that Kupp and Stafford go off. But I think they're going to be a popular pick. I'm on them.
Yeah, that's who I've got.
All right, there it is.
You've got Rams. Their defense, or their 32nd two defenses. So like every week that the defense against them is probably in that top 3 for defenses. And the fact that you can get the Cowboys defense with that kind of potential for only 2,500.
Yep.
Hell yeah, that saves you a lot of money. Gives you room to work with the rest of your lineup, and I like it. Cowboys defense, pretty legit, I would have to say. So
something's got to give. 2-2. Who's going to take home this week?
If I do lose, I'd rather not get blown out by 50 points. So let's hope that it's a close one at least, and gives us some little bit of sweat going into next week. All right, let's hop into prop bets, where you are also just kicking the hell out of me. You've got 19 points. I'm sitting at 13. I need something to change because I was down by 3 or 4 last week, and you picked up a few on me. So let's start out with Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. Who's going to get more fantasy points? Hurts going up against Arizona, Jackson going up against Cincinnati.
Something's weird with the Ravens. They've blown 21-point second half leads or something. And I think it's because they've been trying to go air raid too much. Mark Andrews has been popping off one week, not the other week. They don't really have an identity. Eagles have their identity, and the Cardinals are terrible. Give me Hurts.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with too. I mean, Lamar is, I'm pretty sure, the quarterback one.
Yeah, right.
But I picked him last week to go up against Josh Allen. He let me down. I didn't get that. So we're going to stick with Hurts. Like you said, the Eagles have an identity. Their identity is Jalen Hurts. So I'm going Hurts there, as are you. So not making up any ground there. But at least if you're wrong, I'm wrong, and I don't lose any ground. Zach Wilson or Cooper Rush? Who's going to have more passing yards? Zach Wilson going up against Miami, Rush against the Rams.
That's a good one. You know what? I'm going to go with Cooper Rush there because you said it. Shockingly, even with Jalen Ramsey, this team is not good against the pass. I'll go with Rush because I feel like Zach Wilson's a little bit more of a threat on the ground. He was fine through the air. He was a gamer to get the win. I don't know if in true passing yards, I'll go with Rush.
I didn't write down their stats from last week, but they were pretty close. I think like maybe 20, 30 yards difference passing. So go ahead and give me Milson. I'll take him. I'm riding the train of Zach Wilson, probably going to be my guy for the rest of the year. Just because my other option is Matt Stafford. So, and then I don't have another option in my other league. It is all Zach Wilson. So let's ride that train. Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb, more rushing yards this week. Henry's going up against Washington. He had 114 last week. Chubb's going up against the Chargers. He had 118. So they were only 4 yards apart.
I think both these guys are about to go off. Commanders are like the worst defense in football. Chubb's obviously the best running back. Henry's starting to come on again too. Chargers without Bosa obviously are appetizing. I think just volume Chubb's going to get it because I think Tannehill might have a good game. That could be a high scoring offense where they're forced to throw or an offensive game. So I'll go with Chubb there. Again, identity talk here. They're just going to keep running it. Even if they are down, they're still going to try and get back in it through Chubb.
Damn it. I was really hoping you'd take Derrick Henry because Nick Chubb has been, I think he's only had one game under 100 yards so far
Yeah.
this year. So
And I
it's
mean, the
hard.
carries are there too. Like he's almost
Mhm.
at 20. They're like the last guy that still feeds the running back like 25 times a game.
Right. And I think this is going to be a game where you can comfortably play Nick Chubb. You can even
Yeah.
comfortably play Kareem Hunt. So
Yeah.
I think both running backs are going to eat pretty well. All right. So two guys that you wouldn't have expected to have big old weeks last week, but they did. Damian Pierce and
Yeah.
Rashad Penny. Who's going to get more fantasy points this week? Damian Pierce going up against Jacksonville. He had 25.9. Rashad Penny going against New Orleans at 28.7. I believe both of them broke off huge runs, which kind of supplemented those points, but pretty close. And two guys you don't expect to have huge fantasy weeks.
Yeah, no kidding. Pierce, I'm a little bit. That makes more sense to me. I've seen people like Penny, and I guess he has paid off. It's like I just don't know what Seattle running backs have always been sketchy for me. I like Pierce a little bit more, and I think the matchup again. He's another guy not getting the touch as Chubb is, but damn near close. So I'll go with Pierce. I think a better defensive matchup there against Jacksonville, who's been sneaky good on defense. You might get me here if you're going different than me, but I'll go Pierce.
I do like Pierce for the fact that I think opportunity wise, I'm a huge opportunity guy for fantasy. He gets more of those opportunities, but I think Rashad Penny, mostly just because I'm going to fade away from Jacksonville's defense. You kind of said it.
Yeah.
I don't trust. I don't trust going up against Jacksonville. It's tough sledding. New Orleans, their defense, they're not terrible. I'm not going to say that New Orleans defense is terrible, but it isn't what it used to be. And you can
Yeah.
definitely move the ball. And Penny has been a hit and miss guy, but when he hits, he hits. So
Yeah.
we'll go with Penny this week. Had pretty close to 30 points last week. He outscored, so that's who we're gonna go with.
Geno Smith is completing like 77% of his passes. It's great. He's thrown 30 incompletions in 132 attempts, which is
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. It goes back to last week when I was so high on him, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with Tom Brady or Geno Smith this week in one league. This might lean Geno Smith again. Who knows? Uh,
My
let's
DK would like a word, I guess.
There you go. All right. So wide receiver position: CeeDee Lamb or Marquise Brown. Who's going to get more fantasy points? Both guys coming off back-to-back 20-point weeks. This is the last week for Marquise Brown, I think, to be able to get this kind of stat line with D Hop coming back the week after. But CeeDee Lamb going against the Rams. Brown going up against the Eagles.
Yeah, and Rondell Moore's second game back. Is he going to get more involved now? Hollywood Brown is questionable. I don't know if that's just procedural or not, but it makes me a little bit worried. So I'll go with CD.
Yeah, I got to go with Lamb as well. I don't like that we're picking mostly the same. I thought in these we'd have some difference, but yeah, CeeDee Lamb, I talked about him in my DFS. I can't go against him if I'm picking him there. So
Yep.
now we're going to get into a pretty tricky situation. The Tampa Bay wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Godwin is actually projected more than Mike Evans this week. Don't know where that is coming from, but who's going to have more targets? Both of them had 10 last week, Chris Godwin or Mike Evans.
Targets. See, that's interesting because I feel like Godwin's more down the field. Evans is more red zone. I'll go Evans just because I think, I don't understand that projection. He was projected low last week and he still popped off and broke that again. I think I'll go with Mike Evans.
I'm going to go with Godwin. Historically, Godwin is more of the target guy for getting down the field, and then Mike Evans more the red zone guy. And being that it is just the target line, not necessarily the fantasy points, touchdowns, anything like that. I like Godwin a little more to just be more of, hey, I'm open, throw me the ball type of guy. So that's
Move the offense.
what I'll go with there. But it looks like at least fantasy wise, it's starting to look on the up and up for all of Tampa Bay's offense. So
yeah,
be fun to see. Hopefully, we've been waiting for this payoff for a while.
Right.
The tight end position. Pat Fryermuth or Kyle Pitts, who's going to have more receiving yards. I'll start here. I like Fryermuth, but I just hate that he's going up against the Buffalo defense. And I love Kyle Pitts. I just hate everything Falcons related play calling. They just don't want to get Kyle Pitts the ball. I don't understand it. They did it 1 week. They won the game, and then they're like, we're done with you, Pitts. Just go back to where you were, because Arthur Smith, right? That's their head coach. Doesn't like.
Oh yeah, old Arthur. Yeah, it's I'll go with the Muth being loose. Pitts. I don't know. It's baffling. People were selecting him in the. I mean, he was going so high in drafts. I could not believe it. Give me Fryermuth.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, he is a great talent if you get him the ball, but they're just not doing it. And as much as I hate to pick somebody going up against a good defense, like I was talking about with George Pickens himself and George Pickens, they both were over 50% of the target share for Kenny Pickett. So it's going to be hard to go against Pat Fryermuth.
And Deontay Johnson's been so disappointing. I mean, just to vent about him for a little, it's like, come on, will he get going, or is it the changing of the guard in Pittsburgh?
Must be, because I don't know how much he had last week, but I know
one of
my buddies who had him texted me and goes, "Where the hell's Deontay Johnson?"
All year. I mean, Jesus.
And then we'll finish up with Gerald Everett or Dallas Goedert, who's going to have more fantasy points. Everett's been a sneaky fantasy play in that Chargers offense.
He's is Keenan Allen maybe, his status up there? Does he take away some of Everett's touches? Yeah, I think I picked him up off waivers week 2 or something. He's been like the lone bright spot in my 1 and 3 lineup, which somehow is Kupp, Chase, and Herbert, and is 1 and 3. I have no running backs. My running back this week, my 2 running backs are Mostert and Edmonds. I'm rolling them both out. I've got I'm basically the Miami Dolphins here with Herbert at quarterback. It's disgusting, but give me Everett there for fantasy purposes.
I'm going to take Dallas Goedert. Again, got him in my DFS. Can't go against it, because
mojo.
I'd be rooting 2 different ways if I took Everett there. But yeah, it's tough. You got Mike Williams, who you would expect to consistently every week get 20 points. He finally did last week, but like I texted you, guess where he was? Sitting on my bench. At Josh Jacobs, guess where he was? Sitting on my bench. I mean, I'm making all the wrong decisions, it seems like, and it's reflecting in my 2-7 record right now for overall fantasy. So
hey, there's always a new week.
Getting tough, but that is it for today, guys. Thanks to Dylan Corbett for being here. Check into my next show. Both will be up today, the Game Day podcast, and then catch me on Dylan's show. You can follow him, Dylan_Corbett, everywhere. But thanks for being on today, Dylan, and we'll see you on your show.